everyone. It's Mumble here, and I wanted to take you guys through my most recent completed sketchbook. I think this is my second sketchbook I finished for watercolor and like my third overall. Um, and I finished this while doing Inktober. So hopefully there's some interesting illustrations for you guys to see. This is just a standard A5 format Strathmore mixed media sketchbook. And as you can see, I also have a just piece of printer paper underneath because I tend to slide my sketchbook around when I draw, and when I do, it kind of gathers some like dust and stuff from the table. So this kind of just protects the covers because I'm a little bit OCD about that. But yeah, so I had a lot of fun finishing this sketchbook, and let's just dive right in. So here is just my name, my start and complete date. This was a smaller sketchbook, so I think that coupled with doing Inktober definitely made me finish it a lot faster. Um, this is the first page. I think I didn't paint it when I first got it. I just kind of left it blank, and then I painted it a few weeks afterward. But I usually like to start like my first page of painting swatching. So I swatched like my beginner, I guess, artist's watercolor set, and I also painted just this little landscape to practice. Um, and I'd like to break in my sketchbooks by just like making a mess and feeling more comfortable with them. So you're gonna see probably a lot of experimentation in here as well. This was a just a mermaid sketch. It was meant to just be like a warm up. I attempted to afterward paint fire, and they kind of look like hairy logs. So yeah, lesson learned. I think I need to like let it blend better. But yeah, that was the outcome of that. And this page here, I think I made a mistake with ink, but I wanted to just paint some like pretty clouds. So I went to Studio Ghibli and also looked up just like a reference photo. I'm still working on preserving highlights. This next page was actually, I think, inspired by a YouTuber on the art community. Her name is Mepity, and she did like kind of like these skeleton overlay drawings where it would just be like the outline of the animal and then the skeleton. Sorry, unicorn. And as you can see here, mine is a goat, and I ran out of room for the hooves, unfortunately. Here I was actually playing around with my Prismacolor pencils. I don't really use them as much as watercolors, but this is um, from one of my favorite animes, and so that's a mecha, and that's the pilot, so Zaku. The anime is Code Geass. Here, I went to the Detroit Institute of Arts and I actually was just drawing a picture of a statue. I couldn't stay for too long to draw because my knees were giving out, but it was a fun day. And I finally got my white knights here, so as you can see, I eagerly swatched them, kind of not well. These are some thumbnails. I think if you follow my Instagram, probably a couple of these they would look familiar, but that's how my ideas start out. And I took a couple other pictures at the DIA of statues, and here I actually just use water-soluble graphite. I really like the effect that it has, and one of the reasons why I don't use graphite as much is because it smudges, but using this, where you can just kind of like dip a brush in water afterward, it just kind of seals it in and it doesn't smudge, and I like the effect that it has, so. This was just a really bad page. I was trying to work on composition and lighting, just looking at a portrait. Yeah. And the next page, I was playing around with blending. So I used a solvent to blend, and then I also used just like burnishing, so color pencil, and then finally using the blending pencil, which is my favorite. This is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite spread in this sketchbook. I was doing a couple hair studies. And one is with watercolor, another one is with colored pencil. This was a late night insomnia sketch. I wanted to sketch like some lanterns, and so this was just like a picture I found on the internet, and it was like a rainy day with like lanterns. I didn't spend too much time on it, just wanted to kind of get the gesture out there. So here is where my Inktober starts. So a couple of prefaces. I not great at character creation, but I created this character Mia because I was worried that with the Inktober prompts, I might not know exactly what to draw. So I thought if all else fails, I can draw her doing something. And I specifically made her a little bit younger because I also wanted to hopefully draw her growing up and practice drawing like different faces and different styles. But yeah, and also throughout the Inktober days, I also have full pages where I kind of sketch out that's not related to the prompts because I want to take advantage of the full spreads. So yeah, the first day for Inktober was fish, and I like painting fish, so that was good. The second day was wisp. I first thought of kind of drawing like a willow wisp, but then I thought maybe I could just think a little bit more outside the box, and I decided I would create a goblet. Bulky. We're moving soon, so I was thinking about packing and camping even. So I think that's what gave me inspiration for that page specifically. And if you notice, some of these colors are lighter than others. That's because I mixed some of these with ink. I obviously also did the line work in ink. So yeah. The fourth day was radio. This radio was a picture I found on the internet, but the flower specifically is from the anime The Promised Neverland, and it's just a really wonderful story. It does get a bit dark, though. Um, Blade, I've always loved Mulan as one of my favorite Disney movies. So this is actually the first sketch I did with the Bombay inks that I just showed you. I actually just found a Castlevania picture reference, and I want to practice with layering and get familiar with the drying process and you know how well it shows up. So this is actually my first full sketch, but yeah. Rodent was the day six prompt. I kind of struggled with this one until I realized I remembered a photographer who took these like wildlife photographs of animals near him. So he took these like almost magical squirrel photos in the winter, and that's what I drew. Um, I will say these next two pages with teeth and the throw, which is Ari from League of Legends throwing a charm, they were kind of uninspired. I think Ari's hair, for example, I tried to mix some white gouache with it to bring out highlights, but it just came out kind of dull. I would definitely redo these if I had a chance. But yeah. Um, So hope for day 10, I think I struggle with like more abstract concepts. So one of my teachers in grade school, who was my ESL teacher, she lived in Japan for 8 years, and she told me about like the custom of a thousand cranes wish. So if you string a thousand cranes together and make a wish, the wish comes true. So that's kind of what I base it off on. Um, yeah, so that's kind of the story behind there. I think the disgusting prompt is pretty self-explanatory. This is again another just a full page study that I wanted to do. My friend Elena actually sent me a portrait when I told her I really like drawing hands, and she showed me this one. Again, the shading is done with the water soluble graphite, and I think I definitely can learn to control it a bit better with terms of values. But it was just a fun experiment. And speaking of liking to draw hands, slippery. I like watching contact juggling. I don't know if any of you watch this specifically, but it's essentially like usually with like very pretty glass balls, and they don't ever leave contact with the body, as the name suggests. Dune. I live in Michigan right now, so the sleeping bear dunes were kind of something that I wanted to draw for this, and the picture itself was the photo was much prettier than my picture. Here, I actually decided to leave my line art as it is. One, just because after drawing Leona in armor, I didn't want to draw or touch it anymore. It was too much detail for me. And also, too, just because I kind of liked how the lines turned out. I was especially happy with how the horse turned out. I don't really draw animals very often, so obviously this was from a reference, but I wanted to just leave them as it was, and those are really the only two I didn't really paint in and just inked. I had some fun with a prompt Rocket. I just wanted to redraw Team Rocket. Pokemon is always a classic. For Storm, I wanted to draw something a little bit more abstract, so this was just a lightning storm, and I wanted to just use black and white. I think could I pushed it a little bit more? Um, Another late night doodle with a full page spread. I was just practicing interaction, but it's pretty sketchy there. So trap. I was actually thinking about Mario Kart here, and yeah, a stylized trap. This is a roller coaster I attempted to draw for Dizzy. It was definitely less technically well done than my other pictures. And for Coral, I liked Finding Nemo, so I found a picture of Nemo and drew him. Sleep. I spoke a little bit about my insomnia. I purposely left this page kind of almost like messy because that's how it sometimes feels when I can't fall asleep and I feel kind of like a wind-up doll. So this was the one day I actually used Mia. So the prompt was chef. I didn't really have anything specifically inspired by that, so I was going to draw her cooking using a mixing bowl. And yeah. Rip. This one, I think the idea was there, but definitely rendering could have been better. I wanted to show like a rip in the page with eyes. This is another non-Inktober prompt, but I was doing some eye studies, and eyes are actually my weakness when it comes to drawing. I think I'm very bad at rendering them, so I was trying to get some dimension there. And you can see like in the 20s, I'm starting to like fall off just because I've never done Inktober before. And so I drew like more simplistic illustrations for these prompts. And this one, for Buddy specifically, I drew my cat Krieger, and I think I made him too smudgy. And I even wrote a note saying, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to draw him better next time. Boop, again for the unicorn. So this is Hide. I kind of just like this perspective actually, with her hiding her face in the photo. Music, again, I wanted to look for something more interesting to draw. So I ended up drawing a Guqing player. And Float, the first thing that came to mind was actually it. I've never watched the movies. Movies tend to scare me a lot, but I have read the books, so I really like Stephen King's writing. And shoes. I like the concept of shoe feety, which is when people throw shoes up there. And yeah, so that's what I drew. And this is a page dedicated to Mia. I wanted to draw her in high school, with maybe a different outfit. And I really like water, even though I'm terrible at swimming or even staying afloat, but I imagine she'll be on the swim team. You can see here she doesn't have good interaction with her setting. She kind of looks like she's floating on the tile floor. I'll work on that. And the last 2 days for Inktober, Animus was 30, a little bit more of a personal piece, but I think I didn't go too much into detail for that reason. And this picture doesn't necessarily represent Craw as well as I think something else, but I just loved his expression and the one eye. So I had to draw this chameleon because he just looked really adorable. So yeah, and the last page in my sketchbooks, I usually just try to have fun. So I just put a little swirly with a number 2. And that's the end of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this sketchbook tour. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Did you do Inktober or Drawtober this year? You know, what inspires you to draw and what do you like to experiment with? Thanks guys. Bye.